Everybody,
good afternoon.
We have the best intros. I will give us that. I hope everyone's doing grand.
Welcome to Historia.
Yeah, welcome. This is the best place to be.
Yes, I'm Jamie.
I'm Kiley. Thanks. Good job remembering our names. We forget that sometimes. Oh man. So we are recording this July 2nd, and it's being posted July 3rd. So, hello from yesterday.
Ooh.
Technically.
Oh
man, 4th of July is coming up. Life's crazy. My wedding's in 2 weeks. So, exciting stuff. I'm going to be doing a 2-part series this week and next week. And then we're going to take a little break for the wedding because Jamie's also in my wedding. So, like, neither of us really have time.
We're busy bees.
Yeah, so there will be a 1 week break. Okay, relax, it's fine. I know you'll miss us, but
we'll be back in action.
Yes,
the following week,
and it's fun because Jamie and I get to plan our weddings at the same time, so we just talk about it.
Oh my god, we're those people.
We're those people. How's life, Jamie? We haven't done a life update in a while.
It's going pretty good. I finally went back to work after going on my vacation to upstate New York.
Oh, yeah. Tell them how it was.
It was actually really good. I think I want to move there.
No way.
Yeah, because I was looking at properties up there.
Of course you were.
And there's this 4-bedroom, 3-bath house that is 18 acres of land. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty renovated. It's super green. And guess how much it is?
300,000.
$349.
Ooh,
for 18 acres.
That's really good.
You don't get shit like that out here.
No,
it's like $3 million. Wow. Yeah, and good luck at being a decent house. Dang. But it had like 3 garages, a in-law suite.
Oh my gosh.
And a fenced-in backyard.
Bruh.
I want to live there.
Let's all move there, guys.
But yeah, it is super green out there. My face felt fantastic.
Oh, really?
Because the humidity. Like, it's not as humid as Florida during the summer.
Yeah.
But it still has, like, you can still feel the humidity because it's super dry out here. Mm-hmm. So you can tell difference between dryness and humidity. And my face felt so, like, dewy and just, like, really soft the entire week. And then nice. I was doing my makeup today and I was like, I look gross.
Back to dry skin.
I look dry.
Back to the not the humidity. The elevation.
But it was such a fun trip other than our flight getting canceled on the way back and having to deal with that shit. But
yeah, that's not fun.
No. But we got back the next day. It's just my phone got waterlogged, so I had a hard time communicating with my family to watch the docs.
Oh no.
But I'd be like, hey, our flight got canceled, like we're gonna have to extend a day. Then I had to let my boss know, but my boss is incredible. She was super understanding about it. She was like, yeah, I was thinking about you when I was reading like an article about it. I was like, of course that had to happen to me.
When did you get back?
Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't go back
2 days ago.
Yeah, so I went back to work on Friday.
Yeah.
So I had 1 day of work and then I have a 3-day weekend now.
Love it.
So, how was your life?
So I was on bed rest this week because I have a 2nd-degree sunburn. I went to Missouri and it was full of Missouri. No, I'm just kidding. It was fun. I had a good time, but we were on the river for 6 hours and my legs just blistered up. And I couldn't walk for a bit. Like every time I stood up, it felt like someone was just stabbing me. So yeah. I couldn't do anything for 3 days. But besides that, I'm doing great. Just working on wedding stuff and trying to get all the last minute details together. So yeah,
that's the most stressful part that I am not ready for.
Yeah. It just sneaks up on you. I'll tell you that.
I know. I need to make a checklist.
Yeah. I made like 12 checklists and then I like narrow it down each time.
Yeah.
But And now I have a checklist for like next week and then the week after.
Yeah.
Because it's all happening so fast.
And then the honeymoon.
Yes. Oh, man. So July is going to be insane. But I don't know what I'll do when it's over. I'll be like,
You can help me with mine.
That's true. Yes.
Because you're my host.
I got you. I got you, fam.
I know. I'm not having like any bridesmaids except my sister. So I asked Kiley, I was like, you want to be my host?
I was like, I don't know what that means, but sure. I know what it means now.
You're my coordinator.
Yes, I am the coordinator.
At first, I didn't know what it meant, so I had to ask my mom.
Yeah, you asked me and I was like, sure. I don't know what that is, but I'll do it. I'm always down to do things.
Oh gosh. I don't know what you're talking about this week.
I was trying to find an area where we haven't really touched. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, we have had over 50 episodes, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure we have not gone to this area, this country.
I'm intrigued.
You want a hint?
Yeah.
Cherry blossoms.
So Japan.
Yes.
Nice.
Have we talked about Japan?
No, because the earthquake episode was in China.
Yeah, I don't think we've gone to Japan.
No.
And like Japan has some of the most interesting history ever. And so I've been wanting to cover it for a while. I'm specifically going to be covering feudalism.
Ooh.
And feudal Japan. I actually taught it in 5th grade. And it was like my favorite thing to teach. It's just really interesting. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. I will say, like, everybody needs to go research their history.
Yeah.
Because it's insane and it goes back so far, and like so much happened with like the rulers and battles, and I didn't really touch on those types of things. I focused more on like what was society like and the samurais.
Yeah.
And then I want to do an episode on Buddhism very soon because I think that would go really well with it. So anyway, I could have gone on for years about Japan, but I'm just kind of scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a fun time.
I think you're more of like the one who's like interested in Asia and whatnot.
Yeah, I do. I like Asia in that area. I just like, to me, it's like, I don't know. I feel like they're overlooked because we don't really like, we don't talk about them that much.
When we studied China and like Japan for my World War II class, I just was absolutely devastated the entire time.
Yeah.
We were researching it because it was devastating to see just like how a lot of people lived and then how a lot of like expectations are supposed to be met because that's how their culture is.
Right.
And it is quite fascinating. It's just, I guess like my preference has always been elsewhere.
Yeah.
But
that works for us then.
Yeah. It's still very intriguing. Like because the professor that I had who taught, China during World War II, he actually came from China.
Really?
And so, he like got his degree and everything there. Like his specification is Chinese history.
That's pretty cool.
And so just learning how Japan just had such a huge grasp on China, even though China is massive, they just couldn't get their shit together. But now you look at China now, and then you look at Japan now, that it's just like, it was because of World War II that these powerhouses switched roles pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm actually going to be talking a little bit about World War II. Not much, but like I'm going to talk about feudalism and like the early Japan and like the hierarchy. Yeah. And then I'm going to end with like what it's like now. Yeah. And what happened after World War II and things like that. So, yeah. Man, I will come back to Japan because, like, obviously this is not everything.
Oh, there's so much to it.
So please do not come for me if you're like, you forgot this and this. I know. Like, I was sitting here researching for hours and, like, I just wanted to keep going. But I was like, I would get really into, like, I was watching documentaries on YouTube and, like, informational videos. And I was just watching them and I would, like, forgot to take notes. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm researching.
Well, that's kind of how it was for, like, Napoleon Bonaparte, is that with topics like this that are just so, like, broad or just, like, all over the place. Yeah. That you just get sucked in that they could become a whole podcast itself, like a whole series. But we have to remind ourselves that that's not what this podcast is about. It's supposed to get you interested in these topics so you can go and move forward with research.
Yeah.
Because, like, you don't have to really be doing research for a reason. Like, I freaking read history books. Like, I'm always, I guess it's because it's the history buff in me that just wants to keep learning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have, like, any goal. Like, I'm not going to school anymore. But it's like, I still want to learn more and be, like, educated in that sense of, like, learning outside of my bubble of the United States.
I totally get that. Like, I like to just choose things that I want to know more about.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been curious about, or, like, things that I like, and I just want to know more. It's just so fun to learn.
Well, yeah,
We're
because...
nerds, but it's great.
Well, in school, history is so broad that there's just not enough time to teach everything.
Right.
And kids always say, like, their least favorite subject is history. And it's like, because they're trying to force you the same repetitive thing. Because you learn the revolution at least a couple times throughout school. You learn about probably the Civil War a couple times throughout your schooling. And it's just like, instead of learning more about the world or doing like more world history classes.
I feel like the world history classes a lot of times will still talk about America. Like, they still barely get away from it.
Yeah, and it's just like, no, you should be looking at Europe, you should be looking at Asia, you should be looking at Latin America, like everywhere else. Like, look at Egypt. And I know that a lot of like stuff is like controversial in the sense of history, but like, that's history. It's not going to be, you can't cancel it because it happened.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just, you just have to be aware of it.
Yes.
And you got to make it.
Oh, there's fireworks.
Firework.
They keep scaring me, and Harley's scared.
Oh, poor baby. But.
It's talking. I think that's the neighbors we can hear through our headphones.
Oh my gosh.
It picks up everything. I feel like a vampire. I can hear everything. Edward. Oh,
I'm glad that you're doing Japan. I've been thinking about touching them. I just, because I do want to cover the rape of Nanking, but it's such a heavy topic that it's just one of those episodes that I'm like, I don't know if I want to cover. Like, if we ever get like a Patreon, I might just cover it there.
That would be good, yeah.
Because like on here, it's such a sensitive topic.
Yeah, that'd be hard. So,
but it needs to be shared. Like, I highly recommend everyone go research it, but like to your own discretion.
What I did to my notes.
They're so tiny.
I think I know how to fix it. You just zoom in. Look at me, technology.
No, they're a little too big.
How does it feel to not come here without any notes? Because I'm doing it all today.
Honestly, it's weird.
Jamie's taking a break as she just did a bunch of Napoleon episodes.
I feel like Napoleon and I are like on
BFFs.
a level. I'm his new mistress.
I saw something on Snapchat. You know how it has those articles?
Yeah.
It was about Napoleon's remains, something found in his autopsy. But like, I don't understand how to do those articles.
Yeah.
Because when you hit like next, there's an ad. And then you hit next again, it goes to a different article. I don't know. I'm really old and I don't understand it, but I never figured out what they were talking about. Anyway.
You could probably just look it up.
I know. I didn't feel like doing that. It's too much work. Okay, well, let's hope this goes well because my notes are in a very interesting... Never mind. We won't even worry about it. It's going to be fine. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the Japanese culture goes off of creation myths, like a lot of places, you know, and one crazy thing about Japan, and I want to look into more of their mythology because their stories are insane. Like, it's just all about chaos.
Yeah.
And one of them was the 7 gods emerged from the sea and they created the 7 islands in Japan. Okay. But I like didn't look into any more because I was like, that's going to be a different thing. So
I can give you a book for that.
Yeah, definitely. We'll make that a whole episode. But they believe that because of all the mythology full of chaos, that there should be order now. And that's kind of where they keep their values, is they know that, like, things might have been crazy, but we can fix it. And we want peace, tranquility. And that's been their Their mindset from the very beginning. Okay. So if we're talking way, way, way back, this is before feudalism. This is like when they discovered Japan and kind of created, like, went into the land and created homes there. They went to the volcanic area and realized that it was really good for farming. So that's what caused a lot of people to move there. And that is part of the reason why there's a huge population. And when they first started off, they instantly looked to China, to understand the organization of a society and how to distribute power. So they were really focused on, like, what is China doing? Maybe we can do the same thing. And so it was kind of like China was the big sister and they were like the little one that's just like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Teach us your ways.
Yeah.
And I didn't do a lot of research on their relationship. So, like, if you want to add things, feel free.
China, they were strong, but definitely, like, Japan wanted more.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, China was still trying to figure it out because they had Mongolia, like, down their back. And so they were, like, trying to figure out everything. Everything is spread out, which being bigger doesn't mean that you're always stronger.
Right.
It just means that everybody else is spread out. So if you're being invaded, there you go.
Yep.
Whereas, like, Japan, they were just kind of, like, kept close. But they also wanted power.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of my next note, actually. Good job. good segue. Yeah, so the power in Japan was more centralized. And there were a lot of areas where, like, they didn't even go to for years and years and years. But we got to a point where the country actually split into different beliefs because of influence from Korea. So some of them wanted to follow Korea and kind of like their mindset. The others were like, no, we need to start fresh and kind of create our own civilization. And so we have the Soga clan, which was a big one. They believed that a nation should be wealthy and mighty. And they believed that the government should build the country's riches and create like a powerful military. So they're really focused on like military strategies and money.
Yeah.
The usual.
Go figure.
Yeah, and then in 3rd century CE, the Soga clan ruled Japan, and that's how Buddhism arrived. It was brought by missionaries from India and China, and the Soga clan just embraced this and spread it everywhere. And so Buddhism actually became the religion of the royal class. And ever since then, it's been the top religion in Japan.
Is it still?
I believe so. Yeah, so Shinto and Buddhism are the top two.
Okay.
So it is one of the biggest. And when they were trying to figure out kind of what to do with the rulers and the hierarchy, the Chinese really influenced the royal titles, and they went off kind of their hierarchy and just followed what they did, basically.
Okay.
We didn't have an emperor until the 8th century. So it took them a long time to get that, but they had like kings and that kind of thing. And the emperor has the imperial government, and the imperial government started becoming more powerful than the clans that were originally there. So it used to be the clans ruling.
Yeah.
And then once they had the emperor had the imperial government with him, and they were the ones in charge. They didn't actually like do anything. That's why it's kind of funny. The clans were actually like trying to like fix everything and put everything together, and like emperors are just like, I'm an emperor. Watch me be cool.
It's so funny because they give themselves these titles.
I know, and it's like, what does it mean? Like for you, because you're not doing anything cool. I hear whistling. This guy looks cool. Okay. So I'm kind of skipping ahead. There's so much that happens in that time, but I want to mostly talk about feudalism. So Japan, after this kind of happens and they're starting to get the emperor, the imperial government, they're really starting to thrive culturally. So they're not really like what you would think of as a strong country in like money and military. Like they weren't really known as that, but they were known to be very strong culturally. Like they had their own language. They had everything that they created, art, all of that was their own, and they didn't want anyone else's ideas. They really did not listen to anyone, and this was their golden age, is when they could really just like express themselves. And they eventually were just like, we don't need Korea, we don't need China, we are good. And so they call that their golden age because that's really where they built their culture. So once we get to feudal Japan and the hierarchy, and let's see. Okay, the hierarchy, I'm just going to explain it and then I'll go into more detail. But I'm going to talk about who's on. Should I do bottom or top first?
Oh, bottom.
Okay, we'll do bottom and then I'll go up. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this was, and the hierarchy did change throughout feudalism, but at the beginning, this was what the hierarchy was, and throughout most of it. At the bottom, merchants. Again, I'm going to describe things in more details. I'm just going to say them. Merchants, and then the artisans were above them. Then we had the farmers, and then we had doctors, teachers, and priests. Then we had the samurai, and then we had the daimyo, and then we had the shogun, and then we had the emperor. So that's the basic layout.
I'm surprised that the priest is that low.
I know. Yeah, that is shocking. But they really counted on their warriors
to
be like in charge of everything. And
no kidding.
Yeah. So let's talk about what was feudalism. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. I always do that. And it makes me so mad. I'm like, why do you do that? Feudalism, sorry. The word was created in 1839. So back then it wasn't really known as like feudal.
It was the way of life.
Right. And this just describes how society was structured at one point, and it usually takes place between 1000 to 1300 AD. And a lot of it has to do with an exchange of land and services. A lot of times in a lot of countries, most land was owned by the king, and then the church owned the other portion of it. Kings gave small parts of land to the tenants in chief, which were also known as the lords. And then the lords would give smaller portions of land to the knights. And then the knights would give land to the peasants. So it was like a system of mutual agreement, technically, and to also protect them.
And that's how taxes got outrageous.
Yeah. Good times. We love a tax. And so we have to have a hierarchy because it displays the levels of ranks of people in a region. If you don't know what a hierarchy, there you go. And each level has more power than the groups below it and less power than the groups above it. Okay. That's when I was supposed to explain the pyramid. I did it too early because it says see and explain pyramid.
Wow.
Sorry. Well, you already know it, so you're welcome. So the original society at this time was called the Kamakura Shogunate. I practiced this. Kamakura Shogunate. I'll go with that. And this era took place between 1185 to 1333. Okay. So I'm going to talk about each class. So we have the lower class, middle class, upper class. And I'm going to talk about kind of what part each person played in. Okay. So we have the lower class, which was the commoners. This was majority of population. Obviously, that's usually how it is.
Yep.
And then at the bottom, we have the merchants. So this is the people who buy and sell goods, but they're produced by others. So that's why they're known as the low of the low, because they didn't produce it themselves.
Hello?
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Someone there?
I think you got ghosts.
It was probably like outside.
Oh.
I don't know. Oh, I'm scared. And then above the merchants, we have the artisans, and they were the ones who crafted the goods for the merchants. So they were above them because they actually did the work.
Wow.
This was like armor, clothing, all the things that you might need. And then above them were the farmers and fishermen. Obviously, we need food.
Yeah.
Gotta have them. But above them is the ashigaru. And these were the part-time soldiers drafted into the military. So they was like, knock, knock, knock. Come on, you're in the military. It wasn't like they wanted to be in it. That's why they're not in the upper class.
I don't know, but I know with like Korea, they have to.
Yeah.
I don't know if Japan's the same.
They did at this point, yeah.
Okay.
So but like it was like a draft, so they'd have to come and get you. So
yeah,
they were known. If they didn't like volunteer, then they were still in the lower class.
Oh, okay.
So kind of sucks, but whatever. And then eventually they could get higher if they wanted. So that's a lower class. And then the middle class was mostly the samurai, which I'm going to talk about in great detail So don't even worry.
Samurai movies.
Woo! That's what everyone knows them for. At the bottom, we have the Ronin. And these were unemployed, masterless samurai. They had the same rights and privileges as a samurai, but they had no authority. So they're at the bottom. So no master. They're unemployed.
Marvel. Hawkeye.
Yeah.
It's called Ronin.
Oh, crap. Dang. Full circle.
So interesting.
We love it. And then above the Ronin, we actually have the samurai. These were the soldiers who actually fought. And most of it was they were trained from birth. Like the second they were born, they're like, let's go, get a sword. And they really believed that family was everything. So if their dad did it, then they're going to be a samurai as well. And it constantly went down that way.
Is this like a different type of Sparta? Like,
I know. I thought of that too. I was like, wow. Very similar. I guess I'm into military things, apparently. And then above the samurai, we have the Shugo. And this one actually changed to the daimyos later. But for now, it's the Shugos. And they were like the military-led governors, basically. They're still above the samurai because they say what to do. Gotta listen to them. And then the Shogun are on top of them. They're the hot stuff. Like, they're like the rulers of the warrior class. They commanded the Shugo, and they also distributed land to everyone.
okay.
It's basically its own government. And if you look up the Shogun government, it's just like a whole entire map of like, who are you? What do you do? And there's another hierarchy inside of the Shoguns. So I was going to write everything down, and then I was like, there's a lot of names.
Yeah.
So if y'all want to do that, you can look it up. But the Shogun does have its own hierarchy. So it was a whole thing. And then we have the upper class, which again are the emperors and the imperial court. They're known to be the divine ruler of all Japan. And when they created the emperor, they really wanted, someone to be the leader. And that was the whole point. They needed a political leader. But the emperor really has very little power and really doesn't do much.
It's more of like a face than anything, because that's how like even kings and queens are anymore.
Right.
It's all face. Because you have the rest of your court making the important decisions. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of how I feel like the president is.
Just a little bit. Yeah, definitely. So then after that era, we go into the Muromachi period. This was 1336 to 1573. And this is, a lot of the hierarchy stayed the same, except the shogun government changed. Mm-hmm. So you'll see their entire thing changed. Now, the person who's at the top of the shoguns is called the kanri, and they're the shogunal deputy. They serve to manage the inner workings of their organization. Ooh. So that's really the only change that happened there, but it was supposed to be given to someone very mighty and awesome. And this is where Japan, in this era is actually where Japan started their civil wars and started fighting each other. Love that for them. And so this is really leading into the feudalism.
Yeah.
The emperor, he's just chilling. He ain't got no power. He's just chilling. The shoguns are supreme. So we follow them. We do what they do. We ignore the emperor. Okay. And then this is when the daimyo is created, and they're known to be very self-sufficient, but they held military and economic power over their territory. Oh yes, I was going to tell people this. So if you're interested in Japan and like the entire culture of Japan and early Japan, there's a really cool YouTube channel called The Shogunate. And he just goes into depth on everything. So if you want to know more, I was scrolling through his videos and I was like, they never end.
Yeah. So he's focusing on Japan and like their culture.
Right.
Because that's what he wants to do.
Exactly. That's, I think his job is like Japan studies. Like that's what not his job, his major.
Yeah. So
if you want more info, definitely check out that channel.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of my stuff from him. Cool. So this brings us to feudal Japan. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. I'm excited. And this was in medieval Japan from 1185 to 1603 CE. So it lasted a very, very long time.
Okay.
Dang it. Okay. I'll take it at 10. I always forget to turn my alarm off.
Wow.
AM, 10 a.m.
Wow.
Okay. And feudalism happened when the land ownership was exchanged for military service and loyalty. So now they're really interested in military. And so if we look at Japan, if you've ever seen pictures, it's really pretty. I've actually heard that it's a lot like Hawaii in the way that it is.
Yeah, because it's an island.
Right. So a lot of people say it's like cheaper than going to Hawaii. Just go to Japan. I don't know if it's actually cheaper though.
I mean, for us, since we're in the middle,
yeah, I guess
the country, it'd be expensive no matter what.
Right. I'm like, I feel like it's gonna be pricey. Anyway, so Japan is divided by huge mountains, which makes it very difficult for a government to rule because they have to think about every single little territory in every area. So the emperor was like, I can't do this. There's too much. Because, he's so busy. And so he was like, I need help. And so he needed warriors who could move quickly to enforce his authority throughout different villages. So originally, the samurai were just tax collectors. And so he hired them in the 8th and 9th century. And they would basically just go around to different little towns and villages. And they would go to peasants to get enough rice and food and all of that. And so they would use violence to do this. Of course.
Ridiculous.
But that's how the samurai started. So they worked for the emperor.
That's pretty chaotic to me.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I don't see that as tranquil.
No, a little chaos. But chaos happens, so order's gonna come next. Okay,
is it?
No, no. Okay. So the emperor's servants, they were like, man, we're really good at this. I feel like we could be masters. They're like, we do all the work, which I get because the emperor's not doing anything. He's just telling them to do stuff. But in 1300, the samurai actually started taking control of districts and provinces that they had previously been to. So if they were originally in that area, they could now take control of it. And so this is when they built castles like crazy. And this is when they actually established hierarchies among themselves. So that's when we had the hierarchy created for the samurais kind of going right next to the emperor.
Yeah.
Where the emperor is respected, but didn't have a lot of power. And then under him, we have the samurai warlords. So they split into warlords, generals, and warriors. So the warlords were obviously like the highest you could be as a samurai. And then underneath them were the generals. And then underneath the generals were the warriors. Okay. So the warlords, they fought each other all the time. But they were like, I don't want to do like the actual fighting. So we're going to have warriors do it. So they actually use the armies of samurai warriors to fight each other.
That's
instead of
so
themselves.
pathetic.
Right? It's like once you get to high rank, you're like, nah, they can do it.
That's exactly what they do. They do that in every scenario.
I know, it's so funny. And so the warriors are like, okay, yes, sir, we'll do it. So they're fighting to expand the warlord's land. Like they're doing it all for him and to increase his power. So not really getting any credit.
I would much rather be a merchant.
Me too. Just like, I got these clothes.
Being a samurai just sounds way too exhausting.
Oh, it gets crazy too. Yeah. Now, really, warriors, the biggest thing to them was honor. Like that was, and that's still a big part of the Japanese culture. Honor is above all. Please bring honor to us all. Sorry.
That's Chinese.
I know that's Chinese, but I immediately thought of that song. So the warrior's personal honor is the most important thing to them. And so they would say that this was actually a quote that they kind of spread around. One's life is limited, but his honor will last for generations to come forever. So they believed like death doesn't really matter because you're going to be known by your name. And that's what matters more. So they didn't really focus a lot on like dying or if they were going to die. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Japan had civil wars going on for over 300 years. Mm-hmm. Good times. And they had large battles, but they also had individual duels. And they care about who is the most powerful male, of course, right? That's the most important thing to know in this world. And so before fighting, you go up to each other, you shake hands, and then you introduce yourself with them. So you say your name, you say maybe your father, you say what land you're from, like what area you're from. And that way you can establish like who's probably more powerful. So they want to try to brag about themselves before they fight, basically.
Oh my God, of course.
Yeah. So they're like, yeah, my dad, ever heard of him? And they're like, no, but okay. And then they would go by pedigree to decide who to fight. So if they realized that somebody was like way higher than them, in like their past and their family, then they would go find someone else to fight. So you had to be at a similar pedigree.
Why? I would want to fight someone higher than me.
Honor. I don't know.
I think that would be the honorable thing. Fight someone better than you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so any man could walk around and declare himself a samurai. You didn't have to like train since birth. It helped to. But at this point, because there were so many, you could literally just join and be a samurai. And this was important because these were like the best of the best men. You had to establish and maintain your reputation. That was important to them. They really care about reputation. And so they wore their beautiful leather, I almost said costume, uniform, to protect them and to proclaim their presence. Not only did they know that like leather would protect them, but they were like, we look good and we are here. And they wanted to take up space. And that's why they wore like huge uniforms.
I honestly love samurai swords.
Oh, yeah.
They're so badass.
Yes. We'll talk about the swords very soon.
They're so cool.
But they knew they had to look the part.
Yeah.
They're like, if we're honorable and we like, we talk about how great we are, we got to look great. And so that's why they decided to have armor with colorful thread on it. Mm-hmm. So if you've ever seen those pictures, like they want to make sure it looks nice because they want to present themselves in a good way. They have those large helmets to show like, we're not scared. But a lot of them did wear face guards and masks, but many decided to not wear one, to look more fierce and to look more brave. And actually, what actually made them more masculine was makeup. So they would actually paint their lips and their cheeks, and have a bare face. And this was more powerful than the ones who would wear the large helmets. Actually, one of the great generals of the 12th century wore makeup, and some thought he was a female because he was so beautiful. They're like, oh man,
oh look at those cheekbones,
look at those juicy lips and those cheeks. So I'm just saying, like, if a guy wants to wear makeup, he can wear makeup.
They've been doing it for how long?
Yeah,
same with high heels.
That's why I'm like, okay, sorry, this is a whole other rant, but like people are like, man, this generation is so crazy. I'm like, this stuff has been going. I just sounded like Trump, didn't I? This stuff has been going on from the beginning of time. So, like, relax.
Well, yeah, because guys used to wear high heels. Like, the higher the heel, the more elite you were.
Exactly. So, it's like, everyone just chill.
I mean, have you looked at the outfits that some men have wear, especially in Britain and France during, like, the 1700s?
Yeah.
They are fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. They got some style.
Woo.
And so, one thing about the battles is that they had to end with death, no matter what.
Really? It's not just like, oh, I've impaled you a little bit.
No.
I think we're going to call it
One person has to die.
That's legit.
And they're either killed on the battlefield or they will go commit suicide.
There's a specific name for that, isn't it?
Yes. I think I wrote it down later. Pretty sure.
Yeah, there's like a name for it.
Yeah. Now, death on the battlefield usually had to do with decapitation. So a lot of times if you see old pictures, you see them holding heads.
Yeah.
And so with knowing this, if they wore the large helmets, they would actually burn incense and put it inside the helmets in case they died in battle. That way, so I forgot to explain this. After they decapitate someone, they take their head as a trophy to prove that they won. And so when they would take it as a trophy, it would smell good at least.
Oh my God.
I love that they just wanted to make sure. Because like they wanted to stay noble no matter what. So even during death, they made it look pretty. After death, they wanted to smell good. Like that was their biggest concern. And so that was their way of staying noble, was to like smell good.
That's still chaotic to me.
A little bit. But they're like trying to find ways around it. They're like, so how can we like make it look... Yeah, I know what you mean. Firework. That was a big one. Did you see her?
No. I saw the end of it.
People have been doing them all week and it's pissing me off because Harley's scared of them.
People are going to Wyoming and Kansas to get them because it's banned here.
Yeah. Ain't stopping anyone.
Nope.
So when they won a battle, they would take the other head. And this was just part of what they did. And both sides of whoever's fighting would watch the battle and the beheading as well. They would actually applaud at the end to cheer for the warrior, the person who won. They would cheer for his courage, honor, and dignity.
I wonder how many times, like, because they're in like an intense fight. Yeah. When they're doing this, I wonder how many times like both of them have died.
Right. I'm sure that happened.
Because like if you're slicing people up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But having the head was proof that you killed a samurai, and that's what you would bring to your warlord. I did it.
It's crazy to me because you're in the same country.
Right.
It's like if it was for your enemies, like in a different country, like China or Korea or whatever, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's like within your own community.
Right. I get that too. It's like...
But then again, we can't say shit because of Civil War. It's like you fight your own brother.
Yeah.
But it just, stuff like that just blows my mind. Oh, I saw that one.
They're going off. These are full-on fireworks.
Happy 4th of July. Sorry we're not doing an American episode.
I can't right now. America's a shit show.
Yeah.
So after you brought home a head to your lord, the samurai would be rewarded by his master with land or other gifts. So he always got a gift in return.
That honestly makes sense now of like why they would want to do it, because you want that land. You want to be wealthy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Definitely. I think I'm going to stop there for part 1 because part 2 is just a little bit different. So we'll stop there.
Cool.
So that's end of part 1. I kind of kept these short because, like I said, I could have gone on forever, but life is stressful right now, friends. So we're going to have 2 little episodes on feudalism. So the next one's coming at you next week.
Honestly, in my political science class, the best part of that entire class was feudalism. Yeah. Because it's fascinating.
It is. It's very interesting to learn about.
Oh, especially when people finally had enough with like the revolutions and stuff. Like Bonaparte, he completely dismantled that whole thing.
Right.
But it kind of blows my mind that like Japan, this is what I learned today. I did not know that like their like priests and stuff are so much lower. Because if you look at the feudal system in Europe, like in Britain, like right underneath the kings are the priests.
Yeah.
Because religion is just so impacting. And I feel like religion is a big part of Japan's culture.
Right.
But I feel like that honor kind of takes priority over
I think a lot of it has to do with the Buddhism too.
Yeah.
At this time especially, because they don't really need a priest. It's more so like their choices and their life.
Exactly.
Live,
and that makes sense then for like they kind of guide themselves.
Right.
But that blows my mind. Like, I'm very fascinated with what you're going to discuss next week.
I'm going to be talking about women and their role. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things. I can't remember everything right now, but a lot of things. So stay tuned, guys. It's
going to be fun. So where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at History of the Podcast. You can email us at historyofthepodcast@gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
Yeah, gmail.com.
Let us know your thoughts. What are you thinking? What do you want us to cover? Because we are open to suggestions.
Absolutely. Fireworks are very distracting right now, but whoa, it's sparkly.
Okay. Well, we're going to leave it at this.
All right. Bye.
Bye.